Thank you for staying with us. The International Day of Families. It sounds relieving.
And coming at this time.
And when we're talking about vaccinations, Victor, one of our ardent viewers, said, some good news at last. So, Victor, this is better news. Let's talk family. Hopefully, at the end of the day, all of us, because I believe that we're all from one family or the other, all of us will be better off. So, the International Day of Family is observed annually on the 15th of May to celebrate the importance of families, people, societies, and cultures around the world. The theme for this year is Families in Development. Okay? Copenhagen and Beijing plus 25. You know, they've had different conferences. Copenhagen, Beijing, plus 25 years after. So Families in Development, Copenhagen, Beijing, plus 25. What has it been like for the family? Individually and collectively. What has it been like for the man, for the woman, for the children? What has it been like for the cousin, for the niece, for the nephew, for the grandparent? What has it been like? Anyway, to help answer all these questions, we have, from our Abuja studio, we have Dr. Vivian Okoye, who's a parenting coach. Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And here in Lagos, we have Izefua Irabo, who is a parent educator and positive psychology coach.
Thanks for having me. All right.
And also here is Omoba Deji Irawa, who is a men resource person. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Personally, I'm excited about this segment. I don't know about Alera, but...
Everyone is excited, especially since it's coming at this time when we are all trying to mend our families, so to speak, and learn to appreciate each other because we're forced to be together. Something we're not used to.
That conversation. So let me throw it back to you, Dr. Okoye. Would you say that the pandemic has had a positive influence on the family life?
Okay. Well, that's one way to look at it. You can say the pandemic has brought families together because we're in a point in time in history where all we have, or the only place we have for security and safety is the family, is our homes, right? We were told to go back homes and stay locked in. That's one way to look at it for those who have a stable family environment, because not everybody has that. There are people who see their family or home space as a place of nightmare. There are people who are under continuous abuse in their family space. There are children who are under continuous physical, verbal, emotional abuse in their family space. So for those kind of people, they may not agree with us that this is a time where they have been able to come together with their family, because those kind of people are actually looking for a way out or a way to move out of their family space. But for some other people, some of us who have a very stable family and a secure space at home, this has given us the opportunity to better bond with our family, to better understand ourselves and build more family, better family traditions and communications. So it's a two-way thing.
Yeah, Izefua, would you agree?
I think I would agree with Vivian. Yeah, it's two ways. There are those who this is an opportunity for them to grow more, grow deeper. There are those who this is presenting the challenge that has always been and probably worsening the challenge. But I would also add, even for those where the being together is creating intense challenge, there is an opportunity. And by that I mean, so you have parents who never had the opportunity to be with their children. They work, which is typical, we all have to survive. But now they're with their children and they suddenly realize, I don't even have the skills to deal with these children. I don't know. So at the start of this pandemic, it would have probably been such a huge challenge. Now that is not even to the abusive situation. I mean, normal, loving, caring parents. Couples who have never stayed together and they realize, oh my goodness, we have no culture, we have no tradition, we do not communicate. So while it is a challenge in itself, there is the opportunity, like I call it a window, for us to now say,
deal
because
with it.
yeah, we can say, oh, this is a problem and focus on the problem. But this allows us to say, you know what, there is a challenge, there is a threat, but we can turn this threat into an opportunity.
Okay.
What do we do now?
Okay, let me take this to Deji. There's this thing about, family coming together, but many times the man is busy. So there are those.
Daddy is never there.
Yeah, so we had a guest here last week who talked about fresh discoveries he got from his children within this period. Would you really agree with them, with the two ladies who have said it's an opportunity for the family, but would you also say it's more of an opportunity for the man, like the man told us last week?
I honestly agree with both of them. It's a huge opportunity for men to do an audit on two things. What you have been told it means to be a man and a father, how you were raised, where you're coming from. And then the rubber hits the road and you're dealing with reality. And then obviously you get to see, your scorecard. What kind of person have you been? What kind of father have you been? What kind of husband have you been? Because you can't run away. Like you said, you can't go to work because you just found out that, we have a way of covering those things, have a way of shielding the realities. You're not there, she's not there. But now the children are in your face, your wife is in your face, nobody's going anywhere, you're locked down for hours. You now need to, deal with realities. So the question you're asking yourself is, okay, so what kind of father have I been? And you can't run away. You can pick up the bag and run. You're right there. At
Like
home.
you normally do.
But that's the issue. We normally do because that was what we were told it means to be a man, which is part of the conversations we're having. The male construct or the man box that has been created for men globally is wrong. It's the way we were taught, and most of the time, that man box, our permission wasn't taken. You just come into the world, you're a male, and they tell you like 6 things of what it means to be a man, and you have to morph into that. Number 1, you're superior to a girl. Number 2, a woman is an object of your sexual desire. Number 3, you're not permitted to laugh or cry or talk. Number 5, performance defines you. Number 6, you have to live large to be a man, and then you have to be built like a hawk to be respected. When you tell a boy this from day one and you morph him into that, you've already created a dysfunctional human being who is going to manifest that dysfunction at various points in his life.
Yeah.
So the question is not if, it's when.
Yeah.
So obviously the running away is part of the construct. If you can't solve a problem, you run away from it or you deal with it with anger.
Yes.
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 So it's a construct.
Yes.
So it's what society
You become abusive.
So society has designed this man, and I normally would say it's not fair to judge what you've created.
Well, I suppose it's now becoming clear that that man is not the kind of man that the world wants, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, in most cases, in Nigeria at least, a lot of men are not found in their homes in the evenings. They're either working late or they're out drinking with the boys after work. And then COVID comes along and they must be at home with their wives.
Exactly.
Can you, being a men resource person, please, how are such men coping now?
It's not been
I'm
easy.
just being nosy.
I know, it's not been easy. The initial 1 or 2, 3 weeks, it was kind of tough. Well, more like withdrawal symptoms of, not being able to be out there with the guys or whatever your pastime is. So it was kind of tough to begin to, compare the boredom. It was kind of tough to begin to make adjustments here and there because it's a routine you've been for a while. So it's tough to break out of that routine. But with many of them are calling, asking for counseling, asking for help. And yeah, they are.
They are calling.
Yeah, they are. They want to.
Well, that's a good sign, isn't it?
That's where I say there's an opportunity.
It's an
to do
opportunity.
differently.
They are calling. We're having conversations. I'm busy. Trust me. I'm in all sorts of online seminars, training, counseling right now. My friends too are very busy. Most of us who run men networks or men fellowships and stuff like that, we're busy to the teeth this season. I mean, we're just dealing with the fact that now men see that they can't run anywhere.
Oh dear.
And the reality is the fact that it's not because they look inwards now and see that it's not because I'm a bad person. This is all I've known.
Yeah.
Now,
That's
all
it.
I've known is not working.
Yeah.
I was going to say this when they talked about from Beijing to Copenhagen to now. How do you assess that? And this is what I would say. I think what we did was we trained the head. we did, empowering women and all that thing and trying to get men, we trained men, but we did not train the heart. So what we have is a lot of performance-driven people, knowledgeable people, bright people, but they can't love.
Okay, so let me swing this to Vivian. Vivian, we train the head, but we did not train the heart. So there's that friction trying to marry the head and the heart together. So if the men who used to run, thanks to the pandemic, can't run, are the women ready?
Well, nobody was ready for the pandemic. Nobody knew that.
I say not ready for the pandemic. I mean,
like
ready
this.
To be faced by
Vivian,
the men.
ready to face the men who can't run.
Okay, ready to face the men who can run. Okay, like Izefua said, this is an opportunity, right? Nobody is going anywhere. We're all at home. So it presents you with an opportunity to deal with the challenges which has already been there, but now it's more magnified or is more apparent, right? Or is more present, right? So for the ladies, the men are there. They're not going anywhere. They're now back at home with us. So it's an opportunity for us to address the relationship that exists between us and the men in our lives and to try to communicate our needs, communicate our differences, and find a common ground so that we have a habitable place to dwell, because we're not just also thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about the children in our care and the environment that our children are growing up in. It's very important for their well-being, especially their mental health, right? So you may not be ready that now you have to deal with your husband having to, maybe all your life you have not had to deal with your husband staying at home all day. And because of all the other emotional and economic challenges, these men who are at home as well may become irritable, easily irritable, aggressive, because they are not used to being stuck at home. So there may be a lot of clashes here and there, but it's in your ability to understand, stay patient, and willingness to communicate and to find a common ground and to seek for what is best for you, for your home atmosphere, and especially for the children. There is nothing that cannot be addressed. There is nothing that cannot be worked on, but it is in your willingness and your commitment to put in the work and to communicate the needs and the way forward. So
Okay.
you may not be ready, but you can accept the challenge and work on it.
Izefua, while this is an opportunity from what you say, some have also talked about a rise in incidents of domestic violence. Some men don't see this as an opportunity at all and decide to take it out on their wives.
Or they see it as an opportunity to instill discipline
Yeah, so
On their wives.
on their wives. Yes.
So again, it goes back to, I think, a key thing that you talked about, which is avoidance. There are two things. When the human being is faced with a challenge, you've either over the years been socialized to either approach the challenge and deal with it, or to run away from the challenge. And for some, so it's men and women. So I really don't want to just say men, because there are women that are abusing their husbands and abusing children in their care. So I really want us to strike that balance, because I literally witnessed a woman abusing a child in her care during this period. Ridiculous, right? So it's a balance thing. And it goes to how we've been socialized to solve problems, to deal with stress, to deal with pain, to deal with pressure. A lot of us learned, nobody taught us to deal with our emotions. Nobody taught us how to cope with difficulty.
Okay, just hold your thoughts there. When we come back, we'll look at dealing with emotions and coping with difficulty. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. So the pandemic came an opportunity to learn, to unlearn some things and learn some more. We learned how to deal with the head. And so we had performance-based human beings everywhere. But we didn't learn how to deal with the heart. So we couldn't deal with conflicts and situations. That's what you're doing it.
Yeah, so I was talking about, and we get to your question around abuse within families. So I said, nobody ever taught us how to cope with stress, how to cope with and really from the tiniest point, from when we're children, right? You hear a child under stress for whatever, and you may think the reason is not valid. Somebody picks the child's toy, and you hear a phrase like, "Is that why you're crying?" Right? Would you shut up? Is that why you're crying? Or stop being a boy. Are you not a boy? Be a man. So you socialize this person into shushing, being quiet. And this is the thing, we do not realize that we are all emotional beings. When Deji talked about the head and the heart, what jumped up my heart was really in our heads lie even the emotion, the ability to regulate the emotion. Nobody taught us that it's okay to be angry. Nobody told the husband or the wife that it's okay to be angry. It is what you do with the anger. And how do you learn to deal with the anger? How do you learn to cope, to self-care, to know that, to even be compassionate, like we're talking before we came, to be compassionate with yourself, that this situation is so hard. The pandemic is really challenging. The job loss is so hard, and it's bringing up a lot of emotions, and the feelings are valid. And your wife is not your problem. Your husband is not your problem. The child is not your problem. The humanness in you responding to the pandemic can be the challenge, not in terms of it being bad. It's not. That's why it says an opportunity. Now we need to learn how to deal with those emotions. Instead of beating, how do I care for myself in a way that I can calm the part of my brain, literally, that gets stressed and aroused and has learned how to fight when it is stressed, because it's learned. Yeah. When you shout, when you scream, when you yell, when you withdraw, when you run away, they're all learned skills. Yeah. We learn to survive that way. But this is beyond survival. We want to thrive. What do we need to do? And there are skills to learn how to calm down, to step out of a situation, to connect to, and the human brain is amazing, to connect with the part of our brain that teaches us how to think. Do you ever wonder when you're in conflict with someone and you say nasty things? Out of control. But when you step out, you say, did I say all those things? Guess what? You did it. Your brain did it to help you survive. The same brain led you to think differently. And there is a skill. That's why it says an opportunity. We can learn how to activate that part of our brain in the situation to calm down, to think intentionally and not bounce on each other and hurt each other.
Deji, some will say it's not possible. I mean, if I come from a dysfunctional family, I am bound to build a dysfunctional family. If I come from a society where nobody cared about my growing up or the family unit, then I'm bound to produce that which I come from. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it depends on how good a job they did. If where you're coming from is extremely dysfunctional, you would produce after that kind. So you need to be able to have an intervention within yourself that says, I can have a different reality. But if you look at it from the men's perspective, based on what you were talking about, from a very young age, the most boys, from the age of 3, 4, we start telling the boys, you're crying like a girl. You're talking, it's girls that talk the way you talk. You can't cry, you have to be a man. A 3-year-old boy becomes a man at that particular point. Your daddy's, big boy, your mommy's big boy. What you've done to that young boy is to say to him that you can't cry to show pain, and you cannot talk to show pain. Now, when you begin to tell a 4, 5-year-old boy to do that, he does what we call shelving in men. He begins to shelve issues, because what happens to somebody who is in pain and can't talk? Rage, anger. Inside. And he just shelves some more. So once you see them explode, once they can, it's like, they just explode like that. It's when it has gotten to the limit. And that's how, unfortunately, most boys have been raised. So you grow up like that. And if you look at those fundamentals, that can't allow you to have a successful relationship. Yes. Because number one, you can't communicate. Number two, you can't, emotionally connect, which is the core of relationships. So you grow up dysfunctional, and subconsciously you would fail at relationships, because what you need, the elements you need to succeed in a relationship, you have been deprived of. So you come into a relationship emotionally imbalanced, because somewhere along the line, men have been told that your emotions, are weak, is weakness. So when men hear love and hear affection, they hear weakness, and that is for women.
Oh dear.
So when you come into a relationship with your children, with your wife, it's tough to be vulnerable. Because men have been taught if you are vulnerable, they will take advantage of you, they will
So
trample on you.
you cannot show that you love.
cannot show that you love that like that. You can just play around it, but keep your core. So you are dating somebody or you are married to somebody that you are married to the outer, but you are not really married to the person within. Why? Because he has been taught to censor what he can say to you, what he can't say to you. He has been, and it's a shelf.
Is it possible?
Do you
that-
love me?
Do you love me? Yes.
And he just stares.
Yes, because that's the issue.
cannot say it.
Somebody who has
but
been
they-
told you can't talk. So speaking wise, he knows where he can talk. He knows he can't talk. He has been told where to talk. When he's with the boys, he can't talk.
Okay, but
when
let
he's
me-
with you,
Let me ask this
you're
question.
asking vulnerability.
Is it
we are not
possible?
supposed to give you.
Is
Okay.
it possible, and you can weigh in on this, even Vivian can too, is it possible that it is the woman that teaches her husband how to talk to her? You know, he's been taught, I can't talk this way in front of a woman. But he now gave himself a new reality. No, I have to be different from what I've been taught. I can do better. And then he now comes into that family, and then his wife is taking him back to that which he's trying to run away from.
Yeah.
Is there a chance something like that happen?
Yeah, of course. Because this is the issue. Most men are shamed for wanting to live a different reality. Once, maybe I'm at home now, you come to my house, you see me doing dishes or stuff like that, and you're a guy, you look at me and say, boss, what did they cook for you, chop? You know, you just have that men gang up thing that this is how men are supposed to be. So when you find a man in that scenario who wants to live a different reality, you find that the mob or the general consensus is that men do not behave this way. So it's possible for his wife, you know, if she understands the scenario, to be able to help bring him out. But if she has also been raised in a narrative that this is how men are supposed to be, there are women who will not allow their husband to cry in front of them. Like, why you crying? What's that? And the head of the home, if you cry, so if you're the one crying, what should we all do? And then the man feedback is that, okay, I can't be vulnerable with you. Then it goes back to default setting. So most of the times, there are times where women reinforce that narrative, and we need women not to reinforce that narrative because we need.
But sometimes, especially when families live, Nigerian families live abroad, the men happily do the dishes, the men happily vacuum the house, because over there roles are shared because you work, I work.
That's the construct of that society. That's why I said it's the culture that.
But you are going there with your mindset.
We are going there with your mindset.
But your mindset changes as soon as you enter that society.
Exactly. So we need more of that mindset to change here, is what we're saying. And we need more men to tell more men it's okay to love, it's okay to be vulnerable.
It's okay to do the dishes.
It's okay to do the dishes, it's okay to do stuff.
Can I, if I understand a part of your question, I assume you're asking, is it possible that the woman's probably behavior or attitude impacts on what the man does and not just the man's history? Is that what you're saying?
Sometimes.
And I would say, as much as we would not say, you caused it, doesn't
No,
move
it's not
us
a blame thing.
forward. It's not a blame. But this is what I would say. The human being, whether a male or a female, has a brain that has needs. The needs for survival, the need for love, the need for touch, right? The need for affection, right? So we have all of those needs. The need for connection. We are all wired to connect. We're social animals, like they say, right? We say other people matter. So if the woman is coming to the man and she's not meeting the needs of the man, particularly when that man already has I like to say a brain, because our environment shapes the brain, the architecture, literally how our brain wires. If the woman is not able also to meet those needs of the man, what happens when we do not have our needs met? We go into survival mode. Whatever he has learned over time how to survive. If how to survive is run to his friends and drink beer and be with women, he's going to go to that because that's where he feels the connection and the touch and the affection. We must understand it's not just in the physical, it is a need, it is a core need for the human being to thrive and flourish. However, if the woman is able to be able to support and meet those needs, then by meeting those needs, she starts to create a new pathway, like a support system for the man to show up differently. Now, it is challenging because she needs to fight those battles with whatever it is. And there needs to be the collaboration where we realize, you know what, like I like to, we actually have messed up brains. We need to together create a healthy, vibrant, thriving brain and support each other.
Okay.
So it's both ways.
Vivian, there's this notion that many who don't want to change themselves will rather change their partners. That is one of the things that has led to the rise in divorces and the disruption in families. We're almost out of time. So how do we get around curbing the rate of divorce and the break in families? Based on that notion that because I don't want to change me, I change my partner.
Okay, I think from the conversation we've been having so far, we've seen that the family has a huge role to play because all these things, who we become, it's as a result of what we have been exposed to, especially in our childhood. The narratives, the conditioning, the everything we have been exposed to determines shapes how we behave, shapes how we think, shapes how we communicate and relate to people. I think the important thing for the family to start doing is to start equipping their children in a way that people see the needs to become self-aware. So if you're talking about curbing divorce and not wanting your partner to change, you have to look at yourself. You have to become self-aware. You have to be in touch with your own emotions. And we also have to teach these things to our children, right? Start on time and start teaching children to be in touch with their emotions and to take responsibility for their actions. Nobody can do anything for you. You cannot change another human being, so to say. You can be the best of yourself and encourage the next person to change. So self-awareness is key for people to get to know themselves, so for people to get to be in touch with their emotions, know what triggers them, sit with their emotions, nurture their emotions, and learn better ways to handle their emotions and not projecting themselves on the people around them or the people that they love or the people in their immediate society. So to answer your question, to curb the rate of divorce in the family setting, people, before you even get into that setting or marriage, you have to be self-aware so that you know that you're taking responsibility of your own actions, you're taking responsibility of your own expressions. And then we have to stay committed to raising children in a very suitable environment that nurtures their emotional well-being. We're in where we are now because we were not provided enough emotional care as children. Just like Deji said, men were taught to think in a certain way, to react to emotions in a certain way, to express in a certain way. We have to accept that we are emotional beings. We have to be okay to express our feelings and to communicate these feelings. Because the more we communicate our feelings, the more people around us know how we feel and how to relate with us. And communication is really the foundation of every relationship and the foundation of making things work in relationships.
Now, Deji, you said something earlier, which I want to take you back to, about a child who grows up in a dysfunctional family, and then that's all he knows, so that's all he's going to do when he grows up. But I have known people who made up their minds that I went through this, and I don't want my children to go through it. My parents broke up when I was God knows what age, and I must make sure that nothing like that happens to my family. There are people who come to the table with that kind of mindset, and they go through with it.
Yes, I agree with you. They go through with it, but the challenge is the fact that we need more people to come there. And what makes you come there is being able to accept who you are. And like, we were talking before we got on set, to accept that love and to say to yourself, I have a right to choose a different reality.
Please hold your thoughts. We'll be back in a moment to tidy it out. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're really having fun here.
Oh, yes.
And we're thinking whether it was possible to stretch to like 4 p.m. Did you about to answer a question that Lara asked? But let me put in this tweet so that you put it all together. Victor says, men must change that mindset. A friend told me some years ago that her hubby told her it's the women's responsibility to take care of the children. His only role is to provide. He never went to visit his daughter in boarding house till she graduated.
Oh dear.
So what you have said to that girl is that this is what men do.
Yes.
And that's not true. So for us, for me to go down to the real narrative, it's a parenting issue. The way you bring up children affects how they see life and how they're going to go. And what myself and Larry was saying before we came up on was the fact that we need to raise humanity, both male and female, that are wholesome.
Yeah.
Not
that are
boy
healthy,
or
not
girl.
Not boy,
or girl.
throw that out.
Yes.
A human.
The human.
The whole human.
Yes.
Yes.
Because this whole idea of that you've gone to school, what next for you is marriage, is what's killing us.
And provide.
A lot of people who are not mature enough to get married, who are not responsible enough to get, who are dysfunctional, who are battling and other things, just get married because they have a good job and they're old enough. So question is, what are you and how are you parenting? So like we are saying, COVID is now making people who are supposed to be parenting from God knows when, now being forced to parent. So the question is, what has happened in the life of these children? And these are the people who are going to become parents tomorrow. So the issue here
Deji, can I
is
say something to that girl? Imagine a girl being in school and other fathers show up and has done the first year, second, third. Guess what happens? She grew up with a mindset, I don't matter. I don't matter.
Exactly, that's what you said.
I'm
to
not
us.
significant.
And as we move that forward, that becomes the narrative. So the essence for us is we need to address that.
Do we have time for one more tweet?
No, we don't. We don't. We don't.
Well, I just have to read this one, even if we don't make any comment on it. We compare our world with Western world as if we do not have our culture. Over there, women take men out and pay the bill. Is it the same here? In what part of the world is divorce higher, here or in the Western
Everywhere,
world?
like I said, we don't have statistics.
Okay.
We don't.
All right. I'm really sorry. We would find a way to have this conversation again. Dr. Vivian Okoye is a parenting coach. She joined us from our Abuja studio. Vivian, we have to bring you to Lagos when next we are doing this. Izefwa Irabo is a parenting educator and positive psychology coach. And Oba Deji Irabo is a men resource person. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And that rounds up Sunrise for this morning. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. We'll bring you a fresh one next week. My name is Alero Edu. Have yourself a wonderful week, and please stay safe. Use that mask and stay out of trouble.
Indeed. Thank you so much for letting us be a part of it. All those that sent in comments, the ones we could take and the ones we couldn't take, we do appreciate you, but be the best you can be. Be a family, whether individually or collectively. Love your neighbor as yourself and stay safe. I'm Neo Tagbe. Bye-bye.